What's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and I am here with a familiar face if you followed any of my Alchemy coverage over the past year and a half-ish. Again, Chris, why don't you intro yourself so people know, if they haven't seen those other videos, who you are with Alchemy, and we'll give like a quick Alchemy intro as well.
Yeah. Hello again, everybody. Nice to see you again. I'm Chris Eddy, the co-founder, CEO of Alchemy. We're a virtual tabletop that is kind of specialized in cinematic immersion and theater of the mind. So the biggest difference, I think, between us and other VTTs that you might know is we're not really trying to create a virtual table, but trying to create an experience for you to play your games in.
Right. So this is, and again, it was a long struggle to get the Alchemy folks to agree to use the term virtual tabletop. Believe
Yep.
me, there were a lot of creative adjectives used, an immersive tabletop experience, things of that nature before we
Yeah.
finally landed on virtual tabletop. But
We definitely had black turtleneck syndrome, precious, you know.
but the reason that I brought you on here today is the big news that we've been and you guys have been building up to since you kind of went live with sort of intro stuff at PAX East last year, was the Kickstarter has arrived. It is got 18 days left to go. It's like 3,000 times its original funding goal or something ridiculous. It's nuts. Um, and like I would normally do for all of you at home, I would kind of go through the Kickstarter. We talk about funding levels and what kind of stuff you're going to get. But we thought this would be an interesting opportunity to do all of that. But instead of having me postulate like, oh, I wonder what that's about, and then not ever get you an answer, we have co-founder CEO of the Kickstarter here to answer those questions that may crop up as we go through. So we'll kind of do like a joint commentary, probably less Mystery Science Theater, because this is very serious, folks. It's very serious.
I'll try really hard to be entertaining and funny, which means I will bomb dramatically.
Well, why don't we go ahead and dive into it? So here is, you guys can see on the screen, $383,000 on a $10,000 goal with just shy of
Crazy.
2,500 backers at this point. 18 days left to go. We'll talk about funding levels. We'll talk about stretch goals and stuff. So if we scroll down, so if people have picked up Alchemy or gone and seen, downloaded it, picked it up from the conventions and stuff in the past, founder boxes and whatnot. What is this Kickstarter? Why this Kickstarter? What makes this unique from things people may have used in the past?
Yeah, great question. I think that Kickstarter is something that we have sort of always wanted to do. If you've ever backed a Kickstarter from us before, we've done two. Those two Kickstarters were really to learn Kickstarter. Kickstarter is a beast for sure. Anyone who's done one understands that there's a whole slew of things to figure out as far as structuring the design of the reward system, the add-ons, all of those things, the event. And so, we're all really lucky in this industry that Kickstarter is a place where we can go and get a lot of eyeballs on our projects. And so it's really becoming, I think, a marketing tool, even more so than a way to raise capital. And so we thought a really great time to come to Kickstarter would be launching our version 1 product. And last year, you and I, Ted, we talked at PAX East when we were launching our early access product, and that was really just bare bones, like, hey, we're here. This is just barely more than what we built for ourselves to run, and now we're bringing other people into it. We supported only 5e at the time, and over the last year, we've been bringing on new people, bringing on new users, and listening to feedback, learning from our community. Shout out to everyone on our Discord. Thank you so much for all the feedback, bug reports, feature requests. And now, after all this time, we felt like exactly 1 year later, when we talked to PAX East this last March, it was about announcing this event of version 1. So with version 1 comes support for 12 new game systems and many more coming. We also have a way of creating support for your own game systems or your own
Hmm.
homebrew systems. Or if there's a system we don't support, you can build your own character sheet around it. Tons of homebrew tools, a streaming mode
Hmm.
that's built specifically for streaming your actual play games. And then I think one of the most important things is over the last year, we've developed so many relationships with incredible content creators, publishers,
Sure.
independent artists, and so we wanted to make them kind of front and center. And so on the campaign today, there's 55 titles that you can get from some of the industry's biggest, best, awesome creators. So
If I scroll up and look, so first thing we see when we scroll down here in this Kickstarter is stretch goals, which is odd.
yeah.
Normally people start with the main stuff. We're starting with stretch goals, which is fine.
Trust
Uh,
me, it killed me to do that.
yeah,
That
it's
was
it's it's okay. It's good stuff, right? So it says over $160 in stretch goals per pledge. So this is bonus. This is Alchemy enhanced. It says bonus enhanced titles, but this is for anybody who backs at any level. Is that correct?
yeah, everything except for that second portion there. There's the Alchemy Enhanced upgrades.
Mm-hmm.
Those upgrades are basically we're taking titles that are in some of the decks of content cards that we're offering.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got fantasy, futures, modern, and horror.
Mm-hmm.
So in those decks, there's cards like Call of Cthulhu or Vampire the Masquerade. The stretch goals we're unlocking right now are upgrading those. So
Okay.
if you back if you back at the content deck level and you want to pick the horror deck, your Call of Cthulhu card will be enhanced, or in the modern deck, your vampire card will be enhanced. The stuff above that is
Mm-hmm.
with every pledge. So Forbidden Lands, Mutant Year Zero, Ruins of Symbaroum, Twilight 2000, and Genesis will be added to everybody's pledge of $50 or higher.
Okay, $50 or higher. Got it.
Yeah.
Now, all right, let's keep. So next stretch goal looks like 400,000. We'll talk about. Well, we'll see what that is. Hopefully soon. If we were to scroll down, we talked about version 1, which you mentioned right
Mm-hmm.
here. This is the section. It says 12 different game modes, 50 different launches here or products. And then we can see the pledge breakdown here, and it's also kind of on the right-hand side. All right, so at the base level, there is the backer account, which is going to get you 6 months of Alchemy Unlimited. Well, for people who, because there's a lot of different, we're talking about backer kits, we're talking about enhanced, we're talking about version 1, we're talking about early
Mm-hmm.
access, unlimited. I could see how people could be a little confused.
Yeah,
So,
me
what
too.
is Alchemy Unlimited for people who don't know what that is?
Yeah. So Alchemy Unlimited is our one and only subscription tier. I know nobody wants another subscription. I
Mm-hmm.
personally don't want another subscription, but the way that we are basically supporting development of our product and paying our engineers is by adding this one level of subscription. And what we wanted to do was make it really basic, really simple. There's not 3 or 4 different tiers of bronze, silver, gold, platinum. It's not predicated on how much storage space you have, so you don't need to count your gigabytes or your megabytes or anything like that. And we don't gate any features. Essentially, if you want to play on Alchemy, you can play for free. You can have access to all the features. You can upload as much content as you want. You can play as many times as you want or as much as you want. Um, but you're limited to 3 characters and 3 games.
Mm.
If you want to create unlimited characters and unlimited games, then you subscribe for $8 a month or $88 a year, and you get Alchemy Unlimited. And so on the Kickstarter, this backer account $25 level gives you 6 months of that, but it also gives you what we're calling a backer account. And so anybody who signs up to Alchemy through the Kickstarter will have a special account where we're actually going to take your backer number and we're going to associate it with your account. So on your account in Alchemy, anytime you join a game, anytime you ever interact with the community in any way, you'll have this special role that says, I'm Ted, backer number 1. And that also comes with several other benefits. So we'll release features earlier to backers
Hmm.
and founders. We'll also have special discounts in the future, things like that, that will spoil sort of these select people on the platform, and as just a way of appreciating them for supporting us so early.
So if I'm a backer and I say my unlimited subscription runs out, am I still going to be getting access to stuff early like that? Because
Yeah,
I am
you'll
a
always be
backer,
a backer.
always be a
Yeah.
backer. Okay, great.
Yep.
So that kind of explains a little bit of a difference. So the backer is, again, you want to support the project, you want to be known as someone who's there from the beginning, right? The prestige of that, something you can, even if again you're not supporting going forward, it's a flex that you have that you can use against other people. Back down newbies. The backers are talking.
Yeah.
Um, but also to your point, I just wanted to make sure that everyone is very clear. It is, you can play with 3 characters and up to 3 games for free. Now, if game 1 completes, you could delete game 1 and then start a
Right.
new game 1, as it were. So you can try it out and play around and see what you think before. I mean, you still have 18 days left to back on in any of these different areas. So probably not a bad idea to maybe go try it out now, play around and see what you think before
Yeah.
you maybe jump in onto the Kickstarter.
Yeah,
Um,
our early access is still open. So if anybody wants to sign up for a free account, kick the tires.
sure.
We've got lots of content up there. Like I said, we support 5e Pirate Borg, and we also support sort of what we call systemless, the ability to build your own sheets. So all that's available now, and
I mean,
there's lots of folks
that's
up there
a
playing with it.
rare opportunity when it comes to a Kickstarter like this to have the thing before the Kickstarter even ends.
Yeah,
So again, try it out. Right. Worst case scenario, I mean, you could try it out and say, hey, I think I'm going to like it even more once I get access to all these enhanced features potentially down the road. Just, like you said, kick the tires, see what you want to do. You
yeah.
have that opportunity now. Might as well take use of it. And then, if you do like it, you still have the 18-day window to go ahead and come in and choose to back at whatever level you'd like.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's a good point, Ted, because we were always so reticent to go to Kickstarter because there have been a lot of software projects that go to Kickstarter in the past and they don't do well because they don't deliver,
Mm-hmm.
or they launch and then you back and then you get early access like a year and a half later, and just because software takes so long to build, we've been working on Alchemy for years now. And so I think coming to Kickstarter at this time was really the thing that kind of pushed us over the edge, where it was like, all right, this is not vaporware. You can go sign up for it
Mm-hmm.
today. You can see what it's going to be. And then hopefully we're very clearly communicating what it's going to be in September when we launch version 1. That was the other thing, the turnaround on this is pretty quick. We've got these big features that are sort of slotted to release. Our team is going crazy right now,
Mm-hmm.
ingesting new titles and building system support. So it's all just right around the corner.
So let's move on from just the backer level. So this $50 level, which is probably what I'm going to assume it's probably one of the more popular levels, but and maybe not, but it's the content deck. And you mentioned this before. We talked about it in the interview, but you have the 4 different decks of fantasy, future, horror, and modern. And this comes with, which people are confused about, I'm sure, physical cards, tarot
Yeah,
sized cards, right? Correct?
yeah,
That are a physical representation of a digital piece. And you can choose to, at the $50 level, get a content deck of your choice on top of everything that backers got. And if we scroll down, we can see things like Dragonbane is here, present from Free League. We can see things, so there's one section here. Is it, how many? It's 10 cards, right?
yeah. 10
So
cards.
that's what this first one is, I assume, where we've got Dragonbane, Pathfinder, Scarlet Citadel, Epic Encounters, Humblewood, Tales, Griffin Saddlebag. It's a Music D20, right?
Yeah, yeah.
God, Peku, I forget how you pronounce his name, but that's fine.
Peku, yeah.
Yeah, Crabwell, and then it looks like I can't read all of it, but we've
The
got
Kinemancer, Ambient,
yeah. So this is, I
Legion of
mean, a lot
Hopes.
of these you've seen or heard, probably are familiar to a bunch of you. Cobalt Press. There's Paizo. There's again a bunch of stuff for 5e, whether it be music, map-based things and scenes, magic items. That is the
Hmm.
fantasy deck.
Yeah, yeah. And when we put that stuff together, we really wanted to create basically with the deck or with that pledge level, you also get 6 months of unlimited, you get the
Hmm.
backer account, and then you get the deck. And it's basically everything that you'd need to get started playing fantasy games. You've got some game systems in there, you've got some adventures, and you've got a bunch of supplements that you can use for your own homebrew stuff. And the cards themselves, yeah, this is a little different. I should say, first and foremost, everyone's going to get digital codes as
Hmm.
well. It's not, you don't have to wait to get a card and then, scratch, the code and then redeem it and all that stuff. The cards are just a way for us to really commemorate this event. This is our version 1 event. There's never going to be another one, and we've already been making these cards for a while, and people really enjoy them. People are collecting them. They are all individually numbered, so there are lots of folks that are really excited about continuing their collection and collecting these cards. But yeah, I'll say straight up, like, there's no, besides collecting them, holding them, and all that stuff, there's no function to these cards.
So what you're doing is you are tapping into the gremlin gamer collector mentality here, where I gotta have them all, right? I want to have my binder that I have with my sheets inside it, and I can say, oh look, here's where I have 1 through 10 for all of the fantasy, and you flip the page. Here's 1 through 10 for all the futures, and look at this.
Yeah,
I even have back. I have number one. I have 1 through 50, all of the cards. Look, I attended this convention and got exclusive card number 52 that nobody
yeah,
can get anywhere else. This is a cool thing that I have, and it represents, it's a physical representation of a digital product, which,
yeah.
not that you need that, right? We can all agree that, sometimes digital is enough.
Hmm.
But, if everybody, I mean, it's all contained within Alchemy, but when you start getting PDFs and products and programs and all this stuff, it becomes very clear to you. You can just easily lose track of something, right?
Right.
But if you have a physical reminder of this, and again, like I said, maybe there's a special Alchemy binder that you buy at a future convention that you put the cards in. It's a special design
I
thing
have to
you
give you
have.
credit for that idea. That's pretty good.
But you know what I mean? Like it's purely there for that. You could take these cards and rip them up and throw them out if you really wanted to, right? I'm
Yeah,
not suggesting that you do that, but you could. It's just there to show you what that you were there, you were part of this event, and you had this. And for the collectors and the group, I mean, it's the same thing we see with things like pin trading, right? That's a huge
yeah,
thing from a variety, whether it be conventions or Disney or other things. People like to have the thing that you couldn't get if you weren't there at the time. And
yeah,
that FOMO starts kicking in, and people want, hey, I'll trade you this for that.
totally.
So I get it. It makes perfect gamer collector sense to me, right? So
And that's who we are. You
right,
you mentioned
exactly.
Disney and pin trading. Like, Isaac, my co-founder, is like obsessed with pin trading at Disneyland, and he loves it. And I love that whole ecosystem of, like, you go to the parks, and if you see a staff member, like, they have to trade pins with you. And we have the Penny Arcade pin thing too. And
Hmm.
I think the whole inspiration behind that was, like, we're all transmedia collectors, or at least a lot of us are. You've
Hmm.
you've got a bunch of physical stuff there in the background. I know those starter sets, and
Yeah,
um,
a whole bunch of
but
stuff.
then, yeah, maybe when you play on VTT, or
Hmm.
if you need to look up a rule, you're cross-referencing a PDF or a wiki, or some digital tool set somewhere. But my shelf is over here of all my physical products and books, and on a Sunday afternoon, I like to pull out a book and read through it and flip through it. And so we wanted to do the same thing with Alchemy, especially if you're purchasing this content deck, which the fantasy deck is has a value of $275. And so if you're getting all of that value, like you said, you can just kind of forget that it's on your account in Alchemy, and there's nothing to sort of commemorate that value. So yeah, that was, I don't know, it's a choice. But
Is
yeah,
well, you
if you
made
don't
it,
want
so
them,
it's you don't have to.
yeah,
You can obviously, and we should point out there is a QR code on the back, but that's not a necessity that you
yeah,
use that QR code.
I actually have three of the decks here. They're prototype copies. I haven't
Hmm.
shown anyone these. I could kind of do an unboxing of
Yeah, go
sorts
ahead.
if you
Show
wanted to see.
yeah. So while you're doing that, we'll just you start going through that. We'll talk about there's the other three decks. You've
Yeah,
got let's see, what deck do you have in front of you there?
this is horror.
Okay, let's scroll down on the screen to the horror one, and you can go ahead and pull out the cards for that one. See what we've got.
Yeah, so they've all got these like locking clasps in the back. The logo's upside down here, but it will be right side up, and the inside will be black later. But kind of creates our version one graphic here. Folds out nicely. We wanted to go all cardboard versus like foil plastics, just
Sure.
environmentally friendly, but also something that can hold your cards later, so you don't kind of throw away the packaging. Inside, your enhanced card is supposed to be up front. Well, we'll get to that. But these are the cards themselves. We're trying to make them. See, if I can find the
I see
light
some
here.
foil on the. Looks like they. It looks like
Yeah,
the gold is kind of reflective there.
yeah. So they're
Okay.
linen finished. You've got your gold foil heat stamp in there, and this is Steinhardt's Guide to the Eldritch Hunt,
Hmm.
which you get on the back. You know, you've got your QR codes, everybody screenshot and redeem. But you've got your number up here. You got a little bit about the title. Um, we've got Heliana's Guide to Monster Hunting from Loot Tavern, um, Maelstrom, Curse of the Albatross, which is a shift title for Hit Point Press.
Hmm.
This is the Call of Cthulhu starter set that we unlocked the stretch goal to make this an enhanced title. We can talk about more of that later.
Hmm.
This is the enhanced card that comes in this deck, which is the Vaesen
Hmm.
from Free League. You got your animated scenes from James RPG Art. You got your music. You've got your maps from Chepeku. Should also say, you know, these are prototype cards, so we'll be making some changes to some of the sizing and whatnot on these, but we do have the cards. They're in our hands, so
Well,
there
at
you
least
go.
we know
That's
it
the
won't be
horror
a
deck.
printing delay, right?
That's right. Yeah, we're. What's funny is I think we're going to be fully locked on art and all of that stuff before the Kickstarter ends. So the job will be in production um, as we're fulfilling digital.
So we did fantasy. We talked about fantasy. We talked about horror. So that leaves futures and modern.
Yeah,
If I look at, say, futures, which you've got right there, which works out well.
yeah,
Um, I see on the Kickstarter we have a Coriolis there, right? Is the first one that's enhanced.
yep. Coriolis. You've got Fallout from Modifius, or
Nice.
yeah,
Yep.
Modifius. You've got Vast Grim from Infinite Black, which is a Morkborg space adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Stillfleet, which is by Wythe Marshall. Really cool political intrigue game. Airship Campaigns by Arcane Minis.
Mm-hmm.
The Wild Sea from MythWorks.
Yep.
They also have Cyberpunk in there as well from MythWorks.
Okay.
Hyperdrive Fleet, you got your animated like space maps and spaceships from, this is a Chepeku project.
Sure.
Mark Drummond J does really cool map in with matching scenes. He gets some more music, which is, this collection is called multidimensional. It's more sci-fi based, but yeah, that's
Now
the futures deck.
I did notice you have dark matter on the website.
Ah, yeah, good catch.
Yeah, I'm just gonna let that
Um,
slide on you there. So
yeah, what did we replace in here?
yeah, it was whatever came after Wild Sea
Well,
because it was
I think we moved Cyberpunk to the Dystopia deck. I
okay.
think so. Yeah, it was actually like, I'll just say it was really difficult coming up with all of these thematic uh, titles for these different themes, especially something like modern,
Hmm.
where it's like, yeah, we need something for Tales from the Loop, Kids on Bikes. Those fit so perfectly. City of Mist, but then like, oh, what else? Like, what else is out there that's like modern setting? Um, so yeah, we did a little
Yeah,
jostling.
it's that's where it's at. So speaking of segue here into modern, I see looks like Tales from the Loop, Kids on Bike, second edition, as you mentioned, City of Mist, Vampire,
Mm-hmm.
Cartel, Masks, A New Generation, Badge Quest. There's Cyberpunk.
There it
Then
is. Yeah.
then we've got Weather here, which looks like that's more scenes from Kinemancer, and then
Mm-hmm.
more music as well.
Yeah. This is the Atmospheres album from uh, Will Savino's Music D20 project.
Hmm.
The project I'm really excited about in this deck is Badge Quest by DM Dave.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of people that know DM Dave. He's done a lot of 5e stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and after the whole OGL debacle, Dave has sort of branched out into doing stuff on the Year Zero engine, doing some of his own stuff. Actually, not a ton of people know, but Dave, I think, wrote two complete systems front to back, like
At
while
least.
all that stuff was going.
Yeah, I was in many calls with him at various points.
Yeah,
And it seemed like every other day he was designing a new system because he was flip flopping on whether he makes
yeah,
something new or like a 5e light.
yeah.
Very interesting.
I mean, the you know this too, but Dave is an absolute machine. Like,
Yes.
I've never seen anyone who can crank out content, words, stories, game systems like this guy. He's just an absolute powerhouse. So we're stoked to have Badge Quest on here, which is a really cute, like kind of horror based. You're like a Girl Scout. Um, it's kind of in the realm of like Kids on Bikes. You know, you're playing as a kid,
Hmm.
but it's a neat theme.
And then it looks like lastly, which I noticed was not mentioned, there was a lot of mentions of um, fantasy, future, horror, modern as like the four decks, but then there's a fifth deck,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
dystopia.
This is kind of the most like controversial part of our Kickstarter because this fifth deck, Dystopia, is it comes in the backer box, so the box set that has everything.
Okay. So it's like
So
an add-on if you go the backer box level.
that's right.
And
Yeah,
that is looks like Morkborg, Pirateborg, Roltmork, Mazes, Historica Arcanum, Treacherous Traps. I see some I recognize there, right? Ninth level games,
yeah,
stored games. Benios battle maps, more Tripeku stuff, Kinemancer Chaos, and then again, more music D20
yep,
music here as well. So, you know
yeah.
what? Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like this is such an exciting deck for us. I know we're huge fans of Morkborg, and one thing we've always wanted to do is build an enhanced version of
Mm-hmm.
it. And so we were really excited to kind of pull this together. And I think it's funny when you look at these and you kind of blur your eyes. They all sort of have like these similar colors and themes.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is just kind of, I don't know. We went through like several names. Like, what do you name this deck? I just knew it was like kind of hardcore, kind of like dark, um, dystopian, like an undesirable future. Like,
Yeah, for sure. Not a place I want to live in, for sure. So just to use that as a segue to this, that we talked about backer level $50 content deck will get you one deck of your choice of the
yeah.
four, not including Dystopia. The content deck bundle will give you three decks from Fantasy Futures Modern Horror, along with
Mm-hmm.
again the 6 months of Alchemy Enhanced. The $200 backer box gives you all five decks that we mentioned,
Yep.
including Dystopia,
Yep.
as well as a 1 year Alchemy.
Yeah.
And then if you go for the big highest level tier, which is the $500 tier, that is a lifetime subscription, unlimited Alchemy Unlimited for life. You never have to worry about paying for it. It's a little bit of an upfront cost, but you're ultimately going to save money in the long run by never having to pay for the subscription fee. You're also going to get the backer status as well as all the cards as well.
Yeah.
Which, in interesting, just looking through it, is actually more popular than the backer box level. is
Yeah.
the unlimited level.
I was blown away by that. Early on, of course, is when all of your most fervent fans kind of are pledging and stuff. And so there was a time in the first couple of days where this was the most popular pledge period.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I mean, this was something we didn't decide to put on the campaign until like the last day, because I've always sort of seen these like mega uber $1,000 pledge levels as like, it's like a meme, like whatever,
No one's
it's
gonna
the
go for this. We'll throw it in there
yeah,
just for the hell of it. Yeah.
yeah. But there's been so many people that have been so excited and believe in what we're doing. And there's so many people we've talked to who are like, this is exactly what I've been wanting in a VTT. But when you look at the value of just content alone, there's 55 titles so far. We're still revealing more in stretch goals. And just in content alone, it's over $1,000 in titles.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like the MSRP that you'll never pay. Like, no, this is like straight up what we're going to be selling these titles for on our marketplace after the campaign. But yeah, then the because a lot of people have said like, oh, it's like a $500 license to the title, when other platforms I can buy a license for $50 or something. But again, this comes with a ton of content. We have to make sure that like we're valuing these creators' titles, and
Mm-hmm.
making sure that all that stuff is good there too. So anyway, yeah, we've been excited about this and really surprised to see the outpouring of support.
And this is gonna be exclusive to Kickstarter. You're not gonna be able to do this any other
That's right.
time. So if you don't get it now, you'll miss out.
Yeah, yeah. We'll only ever have a version one once. This is probably the only time I would say with a high measure of certainty that we'll offer a lifetime subscription.
So we talked about how part of this will be enhanced decks or enhanced content, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about this at PAX East, and you can check that video if you want to see it appear behind us as we talk through it on something that's not here on the Kickstarter, but there's reasons behind that.
Yeah.
But so Alchemy Enhanced, there are videos here which I would recommend you take a look at. But basically, what you're going to get in an enhanced version of anything is going to be the core rulebook that will tell you how to play the game. But basically,
Yeah.
if this was a 5e enhanced thing, this would be like your player's handbook. It's going to be your
Right.
base rules, right? Whether that's, just Call of Cthulhu, the base book. It's going to, any base book that's going to be the majority of the rules will be included in this.
Yeah.
And then the big things that kind of make it unique and special to Alchemy is the sort of the immersion effect of it, of these interfaces that you'll have, whether it be title screen or what have you. They have little bits and pieces that are pulled from sort of the world that you're going to be in, and things are moving and there's music, and it just
Mm-hmm.
helps bring that vibe. And it seems like you said you've got here title screen, the interface itself, the UI is thematic, 10 looping overlays, 10 ambient soundscapes, and 10 minutes of original dynamic music.
Yeah.
And I'm looking here, it looks like Dragonbane is the first thing listed, and we can see kind of in the background you have different things for combat versus exploration versus just like general, whether it be like, for lack of a better term, like tavern or like chatting or whatever it is,
Yeah.
just kind of, or waiting to even just get into the game while people are kind of loading in and preparing. And I think we have. I looked at. I've never actually seen the Dragonbane one myself, so I
Mm.
saw a bunch of these other ones in person. I'm gonna click the Dragonbane one, and we're gonna watch it right here.
Cool.
So I'm gonna turn down the volume a little bit, because I know the music's coming. But we can see the dragon wings are moving. We've got hair. We've got capes. We've got smoke roiling. Music sounds fantastic. Lightning flashes. This is awesome. This kind of stuff is things you're going to see in all of these, right? Going
Yeah.
something to this degree. And again, like we can see, they have. I'm not going to go through and play them all, but we've got Coriolis, Tales from the Loop. We just did Dragonbane. We've got Vaesen. So you've got future modern horror and fantasy there for you to play around with and look at. Um, and then this next little bit below here is just talking about the platform in and of itself. showing off what you can do as far as tactically moving around and character creation, fog of war, snap to grid, things that you expect a virtual tabletop to do, right?
Totally. Yeah.
That you can do that. So that's, I think, another point, that if people are only hearing about this custom, fancy, flashy interface that sets the immersion, it can still do the crunchy things that
Yeah.
you expect a virtual tabletop to do.
Yep.
It
Yeah.
doesn't set it
That's
apart in necessarily from any other virtual tabletop, because they all do the same
mhm.
basic things of top down tokens on a map, move your pieces. It's fog of war, but you can go a step further for theater of the mind and immersion with the whole alchemy enhanced side of things.
Right. Yeah, this is something that, yeah, I'm glad you're kind of highlighting, because we get a lot of people who look at the enhanced stuff, which is us creating vibes around
Mm-hmm.
titles, which is what Alchemy really, that's what we've really designed it for, is like a vibey storytelling experience. But when you do need to enter into tactical, when you do need to do combat or measure distances for a trap or an area of effect for a spell, like, yeah, all of those things will be included, including this week we're launching support for two different types of hex grid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like the ability to adjust your grid size, the opacity, the color of it, the measuring tools, like that's all there. And one thing that we've been really excited about is, we're implementing all of these features in a way that is sort of our interpretation of it. So, instead of kind of looking at the status quo of what's out there and kind of bringing it in, we're looking at things for fog of war
Mm-hmm.
that is a way that it would feel and look like an alchemy, because we ask ourselves the question, like, how do we solve for a case where a game master needs to obscure certain parts of a map, not just like, okay, we need fog of war, like let's
Sure.
take it off the shelf as we've seen it in Command and Conquer, from the beginning of time. And so for alchemy, that means different types of animated motion overlays that can obscure portions of your map. Think clouds, think birds flying through the sky, and then when you move your token through that, it's not just black that like goes away. It's something that feels
Moves.
vibey. And yeah, so we're really excited about it. We think it's gonna we think it's gonna be really great for our platform. And so yeah, that's coming in version 1.
So really, what you're telling me, and we said it a couple times, and I'm wondering, is you should have said that you are a VTT, but it's a vibey tabletop. That's what you guys are. You're not.
Yeah.
You're a vibey tabletop, and that's
I
what the
love it.
VTT stands for.
Yeah.
Um,
Always be branding, Ted. That's
Listen,
you.
that's what
You're
I
the
do,
man.
right? So that being said, I did want to talk a little bit here about how you do have something unlike a lot of other virtual tabletops. Some have it. It can be leave something to be desired. You do have full integrated voice and video chat contained within Alchemy. So you don't have to be running, if it's a resource intensive thing, right? You're running Alchemy and you're not sure your computer can run Zoom on top of this or Discord. You could do all of this just contained within Alchemy.
Yeah.
And we've actually done that. We've done in conventions, just used it as a means to talk to each other to avoid the
Yeah.
din of the crowd, and it worked very well.
Yeah. Yeah. This is something we're pumped about. I think some people ask, like, why do you call it alchemy? And really we call it that because it's the alchemy of all of the bits that you need to play a game together that make it a magical place to play games. And when you don't have to worry about tabbing over to Discord or to Zoom or any of these other tools, or fight your video to display even,
Mm-hmm.
um, then then it's something that can remove the speed bumps of your storytelling process. There's also cool things you can do when your communication tools are integrated with your VTT, like update your icons to reflect your wild shape,
Mm-hmm.
and things like we'll talk about in a minute. I think with streaming, I think that's
Yes.
kind of the biggest reason to integrate with Alchemy is that you know it's not something you have to do a bunch of doctoring and cutting and framing with other software.
Yeah, it's like you said, if you're looking for vibes in the vibey tabletop that is Alchemy, uh, breaking scenes, momentary character things to tab over to Discord because you plugged in, you accidentally unplugged, I don't know, a controller or some other thing you had plugged in, and then Discord pops up and says, "Hey, do you want to switch to this device?" And it cuts out your audio or your video because you accidentally did something. You
Yeah,
just lost all tension, especially if you're
right.
playing like a horror game or something like that, and all of a sudden you're just like, everybody's like, "What's going on, Ted? Did we lose him? Did we lose him?" And then it's just like, okay, oh yeah, where were we? That really tense, scary scene. Can you guys get
Yeah.
back in that vibe real quick so we can like, what do I need to do to get you back there? And you never will. So having
Right.
everything integrated saves. I'm not gonna say it's gonna save it 100% of the time, but it will remove a potential, like you said, speed bump to immersion.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and we've always been excited about more like contextual things to your story as well, where, you know, um, maybe you are near death, and we know that because your hit points are at one. Maybe that alters the sound of your character's voice.
mhm,
Or like I said, maybe you switch to wild shape, so you've got some filter, voice mod or something like that. Like those are all things that we can do with being contextually aware of what your character is uh, doing or where they're at. Or if you're in a big open hall, maybe the game master turns on like this big spacey reverb. And those are the types of things that we can play with to
mhm.
build the vibe.
And if we look in before we dive into streaming, I wanted to talk just very briefly about world building because to the point of this being an alchemy, an amalgamation, a combination of all things that it is to play around a vibey tabletop. You're gonna need your characters, right? You're gonna need your
Yeah.
content. You're gonna need to have your friends here. We talked about that. Where you have the
Hmm.
content in a variety of forms. You have a means of designing or building your character and outfitting it however you'd like. You have animated scenes. You have music. You have audio and video for your characters. But what about for the DM, the GM, the creator of the world? 9 times out of 10, people have a Google Doc, a
Yeah.
Notion.io, some other thing open for the purposes of keeping track of their notes, whether they're paying for a whole nother subscription on another site to track this for them or another local application, because those
Yeah.
do exist, because we all recognize that having a means to search and catalog your information, especially if you're designing your own homebrew world, you need something. And
Yeah.
Alchemy has, I mean, I don't want to akin it to like a wiki, but it's essentially a means of tracking and creating things like tables and random encounters and handouts and all that kind of stuff built into it. So you may be able to potentially, I'm not saying that you will, you may be largely invested in some other platform, but you may be able to lose a subscription
Yeah.
to other things by like you could potentially lose Zoom, you could lose your other, whether whatever kind of world management system you have, and just invest in one platform and contain it all within one, possibly even saving you financially down the road on this as well.
Yeah. Yeah. This was something that we were so excited about from the very beginning because we do build, epic worlds for our homebrew games, and those worlds grow and expand. And we were using Google Docs and Dropbox Paper and
Sure.
Obsidian, and there's a lot of like Notion is another a big one that we would use, and
Hmm.
these are all really cool, but like how much cooler could they be if they were integrated?
Yep.
Meaning that if I want to just pull a character that I made into the game, I can do that. And now that character is fully mechanized. It's not a stat block that I need to enter into my VTT
Yep.
uh, and make sure it's all there. Like I can just have all my monsters. I can have all my magic items, my custom spells, all of my scenes, all of my handouts, and all of it is there for you to do all your DM prep in, or just build a world
Hmm.
outside of game night, and knowing that one day you will get to the Wizard's Waterfall, and when you do, you'll have everything that you need to make that play out in a way that again reduces that speed bump of hold on, let me open that doc, let me cross reference, what's supposed to happen here, let me see this roll table. Um, And so yeah, that I think integrating that directly in was a big part of what we wanted to do here.
And then I think probably one of the last things we're going to talk about is streaming. And that's because we did mention how you do have integrated voice and video. And I think you'd be kidding yourself in this day and age if you thought that streaming wasn't an important part of TTRPG games. Not saying that everybody does stream or record or make content off of the games that they play, but let's be real, a lot of us are here because of that, right?
Yeah.
We have a business, we have an industry, we have a product because of the fact that companies and people like to stream their games. And if honestly things look as beautiful as they do and immersive as they do in Alchemy, it only makes sense that you'd want to show it off because it looks cool.
Yeah.
But I also can tell you that there are a lot of hiccups around streaming and the way things go, and you want people to see. Unless you're an OBS wizard on a lot of this stuff, you don't know how to make a certain thing appear in a way that's visually appealing to people watching, to
Hmm.
translate it well, to show that you're doing any kind of interaction with the chat. And you guys have fixed a lot of that by giving more in spectator modes, right? We see this in video games, right? You can go watch other
Yeah.
people play games, but never in the tabletop space, really. But you have that.
Well, I mean, if anything, we're hoping that we're lowering the barrier to entry into streaming, and because streaming is a great thing, not only has it contributed, I think, to the renaissance of role playing games, where we all get to kind of see that it's not this big scary thing that only the deepest dungeon dwelling nerds do, but it also teaches us how to play these games.
Hmm.
And I think that that's one of the most important things, is that at any point in time, you can come to Alchemy and see that somebody's playing Dragonbane or Forbidden Lands. And so you can learn about the Year Zero engine and, the push mechanic and dice pools and things like that, or see how other people are manipulating the game to do what they want to do at their table, different flavors of gameplay. And it's sort of this wealth of inspiration that you can pull from. And to the point you made, Alchemy in a lot of ways, one of the big inspirations that I took from designing it was after software like PowerPoint and Keynote, which are storytelling tools.
Hmm.
Usually you're telling the story about your company's 6-month forecast and
Sure.
financial earnings or whatever, but in the same sense, like, it's also a way to pitch your vision or your idea or your creative project. And some scenes have really cool transitions, or slides, I should say, have different transitions or motion effects and things like that. And that's basically what Alchemy is. And so how can we just leverage that played view in a way that takes the integrated video chat and throws camera frames on the
Hmm.
screen? How do we give you modules within your interface to drop your logo or your Kickstarter logo, or your Patreon ID or something like that, where people can find you, and really just make it super simple to have a really beautifully presented stream. Again, all of your audio is coming through it for your voice,
Hmm.
all of your music's pumping through it, all of your ambience, and it's all changing for every scene that you change to, because it's set up to be that way.
Yeah,
So
I mean it's a separate window, like you said, for this. And
yeah,
honestly, sometimes the more things you have in, like, again, using OBS as an example, right? If you have one feed coming in that's doing the majority of your stuff, the chances of a crash are significantly less. When you have
yeah,
7 different video feeds and 7 different graphical overlays on top of that, 7 different text boxes, stinger transitions, all this kind of stuff, you're just piling on the potential for something to just screw up in a command line and just kill everything.
yeah.
And if I could just be like, here's my Alchemy view, done.
Right.
Maybe, and then I add a notifications bar over top of it or something.
Yeah.
And that's
And
nice
if
and clean.
And if you don't have a producer running your live actual play, then when someone's internet drops and their frame drops out and all of the cameras are now wonky, like,
Yeah.
that's if let's talk about speed bumps in your storytelling, like, that's
Hmm.
going to be detrimental. Or any of the other things that you have to keep an eye on while you're streaming. One of which is spectator chat. That's
Yep.
something we're integrating directly into the app, as well as things like for your spectators to be able to emote and react and add statuses and sort of express themselves in your game. And I should say also, this is all version one. What we plan to do with this feature is very exciting. I think that one of the things that already exists in Alchemy today is the ability to impersonate other players or NPCs, and a game master has the ability to do this. And so, as a game master, I can impersonate your character Ted, and I can play it, look at its character sheet,
Hmm.
roll its commands, and all that stuff. Uh, but what if you could give someone else access to play an NPC or a character? And what if that person was someone that was a spectator in your audience, and maybe you did that because they tipped you,
Sure.
which again, like if you're an Alchemy user and you're transacting on the platform, like that's a really easy thing to do. It's like tip a GM, or for a streamer to monetize all of these people, if they've made a purchase on Alchemy, they have a payment instrument already attached. So it creates a system that I think can be very viable for content creators, to be able to interact with their audiences in this way. And we look at platforms like YouTube and Twitch, and they're fantastic, and they're serving a lot of purpose for people. But there were 40 million hours of D&D streamed last year on Twitch.
Hmm.
Like, what if there was a platform that was dedicated to watching streams on? So you can watch directly on Alchemy, and there will be a lot of benefits for that. Also, as a creator, you can pop out a new window that's easy to cast to your existing audience on Twitch or YouTube. So
Sure.
you'll sort of have both of those options.
Yeah, it definitely. I mean, like that's obviously if I was gonna stream something with an alchemy, that's how I would do it. But at the same time, there's a benefit for people to go if certain platforms have better opportunities for points and sharing and tipping and doing different kinds of things like that. So if you're able to do that, but then like you said, the direct interaction you could have, like, hey, you tipped me X dollars. I have a death saving throw
Yeah,
coming up. I tell you
and you
what,
get to roll it.
you roll it for me. Don't screw me, chat. Roll it for
Yeah,
me. Like, see how I do. And then obviously take control back, but see what happens. That's amazing. Like that's it depends on the game, right? Some people aren't going to want to have that degree of chat
yeah,
interaction, but I do personally. I like that. I enjoy engaging with the chat and having them screw with me and the players. Um, and then lastly, I guess we'll talk about marketplace, right?
yeah,
So you have a ton of content on there. People are able to create content if they have things to upload. What's the process like if I make, the Nerd Immersion RPG or the Nerd Immersion supplement for, I don't know, a Magpie Games game, and I want to get
yeah.
it to you to get it on there? What do I got to do for that?
Yeah, I mean, this is another like pretty controversial area for us that we have to deal with, because what we want to do with our marketplace is create a very curated collection of high effort, high budget content, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense that, like, uh, Alien RPG isn't hard to find because there are so many token creators or map creators or mid journey like asset creators. And we will absolutely have a place for that more like community integrated. I on my free time make tokens, or I make maps. Like, there will be a place to monetize that and be a part of like the exchange of assets on Alchemy.
Mm-hmm.
But our marketplace specifically is going to be more for publishers,
Okay.
and things like that, because we think that that's something that the community needs.
Sure.
It's hard to find, like, I think, a curated place that's akin to something like, I don't know, it's a bad example, but like the Epic Game Store,
Mm-hmm.
where you just know everything in there is sort of from a
Vetted
big
to a
game studio.
point. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it also means that what you buy is going to be very consistent. Like, we the level of detail we sweat over image compression when we're working with these publishers or creators, the fidelity of content, like,
Mm-hmm.
is is at a high consistent bar because we've sweated all those details. But that said, I mean, we do work with Patreon creators, independent map makers, and things like that. Uh, and so, if you go to alchemyrpg.com/creators, it sort of outlines our whole process there on how, like, sort of our philosophy for how we choose partners. And then we sort of have these like two different ways to partner with us because we want to make sure that one size doesn't fit all for everyone. So we don't want to take a bunch of your rev share if you're a musician and you don't need us to ingest your titles for you, or
Sure.
um, something like that. So we have those two different tiers for how people can partner. But again, we will have a very open. It will be separate from our marketplace, but we'll have a very open platform for you to bring any asset you want, anything that you want to share, and the ability to monetize that as well.
I think at that, we've pretty much made our way through the entirety of the Kickstarter in typical Nerd Immersion fashion. We took a Kickstarter and turned it into a 1 hour video, which that's what you guys come to expect from the channel, so it's fine. Anything else you want people to know about Alchemy before we kind of bring this very lengthy discussion about the best and only vibey tabletop out there to a close?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say thank you to all the backers that have supported, and just anyone who's got to the end of this video, whether you back it or not. Like, thanks for caring enough to look into it. I think we've just been like legitimately humbled by the outcome of the campaign so far, and
Sure.
just the response that people have given. I think that for us, like, we just wanted to create something cool that we loved, and we wanted to share it with people and have other people love it too. And so, like, um that's sort of been everything for us. uh the one thing I did want to say is we do have a really cool stretch goal coming up that we haven't announced, but I thought we'd announce it here
Yeah,
because you
go.
made it to the end of the video.
Yeah, that's right. I'm pulling it up right now to show it on screen. So
Nice.
go ahead and why don't we tell people what it is while I resize this image?
Yeah. So our friends at Paizo have been so generous, and we are so excited about Pathfinder 2e. We know a lot of you are as well, and we're bringing on one of the most storied adventure paths that Paizo's put out for Pathfinder, called Kingmaker. And not only are we bringing it to Alchemy, but we're going to enhance it. And so we're going to be creating original music and the atmospheric soundscapes, the motion overlays, the animated title screens, the bespoke interface. All that stuff will be coming. Will be coming to this title. I think we're going to put that, since this is so cool um, and noteworthy. I think we're going to put it at our $500,000 stretch goal, and hopefully we'll unlock it. But I'm really excited
Look
about
at
this
that.
one.
You don't even know what the 400,000 or the $450,000 stretch goal are at this point. But we're telling you what the $500,000
Yeah.
one is, and that is the card you see. Remember, card not necessarily important. The content behind the card is, and that is the Adventure Path Pathfinder Kingmaker, which is pretty awesome
Yeah.
stuff to see. So,
The last thing I'll say too about the enhanced titles is, with those 10 overlays, the 10 minutes of music, the 10 ambient soundscapes, all of that stuff can be broken apart and used in any game you want to use. So when we look at, see, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 different enhanced titles being offered on the platform, that's 120 overlays, 120 soundscapes that you'll have for your homebrew collection to pull from. So that was another reason why we wanted to do this campaign, is to pay for all those assets with the amazing creators that we're working
mhm.
with, but also just give everybody everything that they would ever need to create really awesome scenes in Alchemy.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Chris, for taking an hour out of your day here to chat about Alchemy. Hopefully we answered. Feel free to leave questions in the comments if you have them. I hope we answered just about anything you could have. We talked about it enough. So, Long story short, if you're looking for a virtual tabletop, a vibey tabletop to get you everything you expect a virtual tabletop to do, a means of which to stream, connect audio and video with your friends, a means for creating and world building, as well as tracking characters covering 12 different enhanced titles with over 50 different modules and things, just as it stands right now at version 1 year and a half ish after its initial early access, on top of the best means of creating a theater of the mind style campaign. Alchemy RPG is what you're looking for. Go right now to the website, play around with it with what you can right now, see if you like it. $25 gets you a flex on everybody else who comes in after this Kickstarter ends and says that you were there from the beginning. And for $500 right now, you can be set for life. And there are not many instances where $500 will get you set for life. So I don't have much of a better pitch than that. So
That was incredible. Like, I mean, I just got to say, you were paying attention. So
so go ahead. There'll be a link at the top of the video description as well as a pinned comment for you to go check out Alchemy RPG on Kickstarter. Chris and I will be talking. You'll see us again at Gen Con. I don't know what he's going to have to tell me then, because he's going to be in post Kickstarter crisis mode,
yeah,
looking to deliver this thing in September of this year. Is that correct?
yeah, our dev team is sweating.
So yeah, basically you'll see how sunken his eyes are and how much sleep he's lost come August, because it'll be like, well, you got 1 month left to deliver, buddy. Hope you're ready.
Yeah, we'll be in crunch time.
So anyway, thank you so much for coming on here to talk with me.
Absolutely, Ted. I mean, thank you, man. Thanks for what you do for the community.
Thank you.
You know, we were talking before the stream about how Saturday morning's my time to wake up, get coffee, and watch Nerd Immersion. And I love what you do. We want to support you in any way that we can. But we're so grateful for your time and attention on this stuff. So everybody, smash the subscribe, the likes, all the things. Support this guy. He's the real deal.
Appreciate it. All right, folks. We'll see you next time.
Peace.